Good morning, everyone. Here we are today to talk about spring cleaning and optimization of your OnBase system. Since spring is upon us, we thought this was a perfect topic. We're coming to you from our customer care group here within Naviant. Chris Krause and Jennifer Hinkwinette will be your presenters today. As you can see, Chris has got a lovely vacation photo there. Just some basic stuff that we always go over. The whole audience is muted. There's a chat box, so you can always add questions or comments. At the end, you will be presented with a survey. We ask that you do put some information in there. We use that information to create the webinars going forward, so all that information is greatly appreciated. And then for our previous webinars, you can always listen to them or view them on our website. So the agenda today, we're going to start talking about tips and tricks to spring cleaning and different things you can do with your OnBase system that you may have not known was there. We are going to show you how to optimize user policies for the Unity client, which is new. Adding optimizations for your workflow. So to bring your workflow up to the next level, there's some new stuff that you can do. Then we're going to talk about maintenance and the different things you want to do to maintain your system so that it does stay squeaky, spring clean. We're going to go over some built-in shortcuts into OnBase and some new customizable shortcuts that could help your users who don't like to use the mouse to be able to keep their fingers right on the keypad. And then we'll give you some tools that you may know are there, you may not, to help improve each business area of your business. All right, we're going to start off with some tips and tricks. So this quote, some of the biggest impacts to our daily processes came from sharing the smallest ideas. These are quotes we've gotten from different customers, and this is a great one in the fact that there might be something that I show you in these tips and tricks that could make your life so much easier, and it may be just the smallest thing. I'm going to start off talking about this OBService Monitor. Some people may not even know it exists. It is a great tool when you're trying to monitor the Fit client running as a service. So you may have the Fit client running as a service for dip, cold, scheduled sweeps, auto commits, stuff like that, and you have no idea why it is not running. You can start up the OBService Monitor, and it can give you detailed information about what it's finding. So I just used this recently with a customer and found out that there wasn't enough rights to a certain directory that it was looking for. So this is a great tool when you can see that your service is not doing one of your processes, but you're not sure why. This tool is very helpful, and we can get that to you if you just contact us at support. The Diagnostics Console. So the Diagnostics Console does the same thing but more for your application server. So this can give you a lot of different information, even tell you about the Fit client running as a service. So you can see straight from the Diagnostics Console that in this case, it's not running, it's stopped. And you can send the command to start it straight from Diagnostics Console. Diagnostics Console will provide you with a lot of different error messages. You can also view your server information from the Diagnostics Console, so you can get some basic information about your server and what's it running. As you can see here. And you can also enable tabs. So As you can see, they give you a few tabs that might help. In this example, we're going to enable the LDAP tab, which is perfect if you're using AD authentication. We use this one a lot if people can't get logged in and we're not sure why. We can enable that tab. You can also save off a tab, all tabs. There's times that we will ask for this information so that maybe we can send it to Highland or go through it. And that's from the file save menu is how you would save that. And as you can see, you can also export this to a spreadsheet. So there are many different ways you can get the information out of the Diagnostics Console for evaluation. Password policies. This is kind of a newer option in newer versions of OnBase. You'll see them if we've done an upgrade for you, it comes up and talks about the password policy when you first move to a version that has it. It has two default policies, a high security and a medium security. Each of these has a different set of rules or a subset of rules. So, and you can also create your own. So you can create security groups for different groups of people based off what you want them to have. So here are all the settings, for example, that you can turn on or off. So you can, expires after so many days. You can make them reset their password when they first come in, expires on first use. You can give the maximum overall length, the minimum overall length. You can require special characters, upper, lowercase. So you can do a lot of the same things that you can do with your AD system that you can do with this if you're not already using AD authentication or NT authentication. And then on to NT authentication. So with newer versions of OnBase, they have come up with enhanced AD authentication versus the basic. So with basic authentication, your user groups in OnBase needed to match your OnBase user groups in AD. With this new enhanced AD authentication, you no longer need to do that. So as you can see, we have the OB accounting group, and we do have a group called OB accounting, but I was also able to drag and drop the accounting group over to OB accounting. So those will now, anybody in the accounting group will have rights based off the OB accounting group in OnBase. We get a lot of questions to support about how many licenses am I using? Am I using up all my licenses? Am I maxing out? Do I need more? And we get this question a lot. So we thought we'd give you a couple different things that you need to turn on in order to get this information. So if you go to Utils and then go to this core base settings, right here, this log license usage, that needs to be on in order for the information to be logged to the database. Once the information is logged to the database, we can actually get to that information through a report. So in the FIC client here, there is a license usage report. So you can put in the information that you're looking for, and you can go ahead and start, and it will come back with a report. Now, obviously, we just have one logged in right now, and that's what the information we got from this system. Yours would obviously look different. You probably would need to turn it on, and then I would wait a couple days to actually get information that is useful. With that turned on, if you are using reporting dashboards, you can, we have a dashboard that will read from that table and give you this information. So as you can see, this is like every hour each license and how many we are using, or the max that's being used at that hour. So it is a great tool if you're running out of licensing or you're really curious where you're at. You can use this tool to figure out what parts of your day is the max amount of people using your licensing. Document retention. So this is a great thing to think about, especially in spring cleaning, is how many documents do I have in my system, and are these documents no longer necessary? So there might be a lot of different reasons why you would want to delete or remove items from your OnBase system. Legal reasons is the first thing that come to my mind. Maybe you're supposed to keep something for 7 years. So after 7 years, you should really be getting rid of it versus keeping it around for 10 years. So your options are you can automatically destruct or remove the qualified documents. There is static and dynamic retention. So static will purge in specified time intervals. So you would tell them what the intervals are, like 7 years, for example, and then it would delete them. The dynamic retention allows a date to be determined, so you can do a lot more with the dynamic if you want it based off maybe a keyword or something to that effect. The distribution service. So if you are using workflow and you are sending emails, you are using the distribution service. There's a new setting with 16. If you go under utils and then go down here to distribution service, that has to be set up on a new 16 system. So you'll, you got to set the temporary cache to a directory, as you can see here. And you also have the option within here to be able to generate a test notification. So you can click here and type in an address. And once you click generate, it will send an email, in this case, to Cindy Smith. And we're adding a document handle, so it will actually attach a document. And so we're now going to go look at Cindy Smith's email. We'll refresh this. And there's the message with the attachment. So it's a nice little tool if you're not sure your distribution service is working or not. This will give you an idea if it's basically working. The check file path length. So there is a 256 character limit to the length of your disk group paths. So many of you probably don't make them that long, but it is something to keep in mind. This process will allow you to actually check them to verify. So you go to utils and check file path length. And as you can see, we have no of them that are at the limit, but this will give you a way to check that so you know before you run out or they have them too long. So a lot of you will create stuff in your test environment and move that stuff to production. So change management is the way that you can easily move different things you can export and import from one system to another. So it's under utils again, and it's under change management, and we're going to export configuration items. And in this example, we are going to export. So first it's going to give you the server, the data source, the account we're using. And in this instance, we are going to use folders. But as you can see, there's a lengthy list of different things that you can use this for to move from one system to another. We are going to be doing a specific folder types for insurance in this example. So you go ahead and move them over and click Next. And then you can encrypt the export file with a password if you'd like. And in this example, we are going to do that. And then we will start the export. And so now you need to make sure you download that export so you have it in a file somewhere where you can import it into another system. So we'll give it a file name and a location, and we'll click Save. And then we will click Finish. So now, once we have that exported, we will want to go and import it. So from here, we're going to you go to the same place, but instead of selecting Export, we will select Import. Again, we get the server, data source, user, and we got to browse out to the file that we're going to bring in and put in the password, and then we will click the Upload button. So now that it's been successfully uploaded, we're going to click Next. So we would, if it is something new, you would create, map, or replace, depending on what actions need to be followed for what you are bringing in. So once you do that, we will verify the resolution. So it's verification was successful. Click Next. So this gives you a small summary of everything. And then we will start the import. And again, when this is complete, you will get another summary. And from here, you can choose whether you want to commit your changes or you want to revert them back. And in this case, we will commit. And then we click Finish. And now those should be available. Having a plan. So this is important in several different places, I guess would be the best way to put it. You should always have a plan when you're testing an upgrade, and you should always have a plan when you're testing something new that you're getting ready to bring into your system. Like a new process or a new workflow or something of that nature. You want to, first of all, identify the items that you need for testing. Identify the users that are going to be doing your testing. Put together any test scripts that may be necessary for your end users' acceptance testing. You want to log those results because it's very important that you have the results that you can talk to the developers and other people with. And then there's another thing with a newer option in OnBase. You can use the item generator whenever possible. So you can generate items for testing purposes instead of having items that you need that you need to bring in the system, or you need to have different cases. You can use the OnBase item generator to generate those documents for you. So now we're going to talk about user options policies for the Unity client. So this is a newer option that has come up that allows you to take different parts of the client and make sure all your users have those parts. So in this case, everybody would have the same personal page, which makes training easy and consistent. But you can do this for several different things within user options. So it allows you to set up and enforce user options designed for each user group. So within the user group, you can click on, go to user options, go to set a home tab, or the home layout, thumbnail settings. There's a lot of different things you can do. We just did this for a customer where we set the user options so that it would not display the form, it would not display something that they already uploaded. So there's many different things that you can do and a lot of different settings you can change. These are all settings for the Unity interfaces. These don't work for the thick client. And they can be enforced where the user cannot change them. So you can do both, but you can enforce this so that you know that they will always have the settings that you set up for them. So we're going to go through how this is set up. So you would open up the Unity client and go to the OnBase button and then go to Administration and User Option Policy Administration. And in this case, we're going to create a new policy for our accounting department. And we're going to grab the category General Options so we can change the home layout. As you can see, we're going to enforce this so they can't make the change, and we're going to make the home layout the personal page. So when they log in, the first thing they will see is the personal page. We're also going to change these, the delete after file upload. So you can also enforce this, and you want to delete files after upload, so that way you don't end up with extra documents laying around. As you can see here, there's a lot of different options. So we're going to go under Document, and this automatically display notes pane. We're going to also enforce that as part of this user option policy. So now we're going to assign it to the user group that we want to use that accounting policy. And then we are going to make it a priority. So what you can do here is you can set the priority of which one takes precedent. So if somebody is in this case, the accounting group and the HR group, it is going to use the accounting policy first, and the settings that are within that policy, as you can see here. And here's the list of the options that are set with that. And next to these, you can see the general settings. There's an edit, so you can edit them straight from the screen after they've been created. And now I'm going to turn it over to Chris, and he's going to talk about optimizing your workflow.
Wow, Jen, those are some really great tips and tricks, and I love those user policy options. It's nice to be able to enforce and have our users be exactly the same across departments. Now we're going to get into workflow. A lot of you have workflow, and workflow is one of my favorite OnBase modules. For those of you that don't know what workflow is, it's that business process automation tool that allows you to use point-and-click configurable to take documents or forms and route them around and do basically anything within your business as far as a process flow goes. One of our customers mentioned that they have over 50 plus production workflows that they developed, and it improved their overall business dramatically because it shared the workload across multiple users, so it wasn't just sitting on someone's desk who called in sick that day. It was actually in a queue that was monitored by many people. Not to mention it also improved the accountability, so now they had that visibility into where were things within a process so that management could actually drive and get additional help in areas that were being swamped during busy times, or they could take a look and reallocate resources and move that work to other groups because it wasn't being allocated appropriately, right? So you thought it was supposed to go to the customer service group and it was actually supposed to go to sales, for example. So workflow dramatically improved their overall business process, and having over 50 workflows, they will achieve much better throughput. So let's talk about a couple key concept designs, because this is about spring cleaning and making things better and more efficient. And there are a couple things within OnBase workflows when you're building them. There's very simple things you can do, and of course there's more complex things you should do. And we're going to cover a whole bunch of things that are just some great tips and tricks to make your workflows the best they can possibly be. And the first and foremost, we want to talk about reviewing your workflow design. This isn't like the Ronco cooker where you're going to set it and forget it. We actually want you to review your existing workflow designs. A lot of times people put them in and kind of forget about them because they just work. And it's really good every year or two to go to your business area and review with that management group the existing workflow and ensure that everything is being met from a business process. Perhaps there's new standards or regulations that came into play that they need to modify the existing workflow, or perhaps you did a script in an earlier version of OnBase for functionality that didn't exist, but now after an upgrade, you are able to do that with just a simple point-and-click configuration. You're actually able to improve the efficiency of the workflow process or a load balance, for example, simply by modifying the workflow design based on your new version. So there's lots of reasons to go back and look to see if it's something that is still needed or not to make sure that your end users are having the most efficient workflow possible. Speaking of those scripts, very rarely now do you even need to use scripts for most of the functions. Expressions are a very, very powerful and wonderful tool that you can leverage on properties to come up with calculations and do evaluations of values, keyword values or property values to determine what to do next. So you can set rules based on an expression. For example, if you have to say you've got an AP invoice review process and you want to have an upper management review all invoices that are greater than $100,000, you can have an expression go through and actually add up all the invoices for a vendor for a given month and send that over to executive level management to be able to do a special approval for those in particular. So those expressions can do accumulation calculations above and beyond the standard keyword, if you will. And the expressions also let you do, there's a quick start guide that is actually available on OnBase Community that goes through exactly how to build them. Because a lot of people haven't had experience building them, but they're very easy to use, and that guide will take you right through all the common ones like sum and now. Now is one of my favorite ones to use because it simply takes the date timestamp of now and places it on the document. So you can actually leverage that not only within OnBase workflow but on a Unity form as well in order to fulfill and propagate fields automatically. So very powerful stuff. If you haven't used it yet, I highly recommend that you bring expressions into your workflow. Another option that Highlands recently added is the related checkbox. So a lot of you have used related objects. So you have a form that goes through like an AP invoice and you want to see where are my packing slip or what are my other related documents to that invoice. Now in OnBase, without having, you used to have to do quite a bit of configuration to do any work against, say, that packing list or related item. Now with the simple checkbox as shown on the screenshot, you can say check use related items for tasks, and everything that you configure after this rule to check for related items will be executed against that related item. So anything I configure, like say updating a keyword or workflow status, would also update the packing list and any other documents that it found for related. Or in this example, I'm looking at an ad hoc portfolio that is looking for work-related work view objects. Very powerful tool and a simple checkbox to configure. Now one thing that's always important is making sure that you are building efficient workflows and optimizing them, and spring cleaning is very, very important. You can see by this example on the screen that there is a very sad icon because we are looking for related documents by keyword. So this kind of ties in with that checkbox I was referring to earlier. If I go through and look at these exactly right now, I'm looking for 4 different things. I'm looking for related PO number exists, and then I'm going to go look and see, do I have anything with related invoice number, vendor name, and vendor number. Those are 4 very processor intensive queries. So every single time I ask that rule, I'm going up to the database to check, do these items exist, and then taking action on them. Not very efficient. So that's 4 separate calls I have to make. A much more efficient way to do it, and you can tell by the happy icon, is first go look and find out all my related AP vendor invoices and bring those back. And now say, do you have a matching PO number, invoice number, vendor name, and vendor number? So go do that check, bring back all your related items first, and then do your evaluations on those related items directly within your rule. Much more efficient and less processor intensive on your SQL Server. When creating forms, so whether it's Unity forms or HTML forms, when you're creating a form, one thing we used to always do is have a relationship between the form and say a related document, like for example in the case of a form for an expense reimbursement process where you have related receipts you want to match to your expense form, we would copy the document handle of the expense form over to your receipts so that you could always find them. Well, now they're directly built in using these checkboxes highlighted on the screen, fill document handle keywords. It will go out and automatically take the document handle and map it to your related items. So when you're bringing in receipts, it will automatically get that document handle linking for doing cross-references and other lookups later on. A fantastic tool. We've been using the document handle for relationships for a long time, but now it can be much faster and automated through these checkboxes. Coming very, very soon is the Unity Scheduler. So it's out in version 16, and this Unity Scheduler is going to bring a lot of power and capabilities and will be required by OnBase version 18. So before you know it, you're going to have to use the Unity Scheduler. It expands the capabilities by allowing you to schedule things like reporting dashboards. Also, you can schedule all of your cold and dip processes like you do today. It also does workflow timers. But it also expands some of the functionality. So workflow timers, for those of you that have configured those before, you know that you can do quite a bit of configuration in there, like run on a particular day of the week, run at a certain time, run at a different interval of time, say every 15 minutes. But now you can do a few more things, like choose the first Monday of the week or the last day of the month, or run annually. So there's additional functionality in time frames that you can pick. I'm showing in the screenshot that will give you additional functionality for things that you need to do on a monthly basis or on a particular time, run on the 15th, run on the 1st, run on the last day, that you couldn't easily do before without doing some calculations. So a fantastic addition. It's really going to be great. The Unity Scheduler actually gives you multiple instances as well, so you can run 2 or 3 instances simultaneously on the same server to achieve and run a variety of different tasks. So a very versatile tool. Watch out for more updates as OnBase version 17 comes out. Now, as Jen mentioned earlier, there's this whole testing scenario that you should be doing on all of your systems, whether you're putting in new doc types, keywords, user policies. OnBase workflow has the item generator. And Jen mentioned when you have to have a plan, right? So you created a workflow, you want to test that workflow. And one of the great tools that are highly underutilized is an item generator within OnBase workflow. The item generator will create forms or documents, put them into a particular queue or lifecycle for you, and then allow you to do your testing. The best part is that once you're completed with them, you can actually take the batches of documents created using the item generator and remove them. So you don't have to keep those documents out there. But the item generator remains. So when you do an upgrade, you can simply execute the item generator again, and it will repopulate your life cycles with documents so that you can do your testing after an upgrade, making a very efficient way to track and monitor your workflow processes. So let's take a look at what it takes to create one of these. And I'm going to do an applicant document, and you can put in a description. And of course, in this case, I'm going to do a Unity form example, but you can do work view objects as well. And you have to pick what kind of form and how many you want to create. In my case, lucky number 13. And you'll notice I can pick the keyword values and form properties that I want to fill. So in this case, desired position is going to come from a random data set since it's an internal data set. You can also pick other values like a static value, a constant value, or if it's a date range, because it's a date value, you can put those in. You set your values, click next. Now you can put any form fields in. In this case, I'm not going to add any. And you can say where you want to add it to. Do you want to add it to the life cycle, to a specific queue, like in my case, and what are the dates you want to use. Then you get your summary screen, and you can click Finish, and now you've got your generator built. You click on Execute, and that will actually create the documents. And that creates a batch within OnBase that you can use then to basically those documents have been there, you run your workflow process. Once you're done, you can remove that batch from the system. So it's like the documents never existed. So that excuse about, well, it's really hard to get sample data in and make sure my process works is really gone by leveraging the item generator. Another really cool workflow feature that is highly underutilized in OnBase Studio is the compare function. So the compare function will take two say between test in production or test in your dev environment and match a workflow configuration similar to the compare utility for those of you that ever use that for Word documents, where it lines up your workflows and shows what all the variations are. And so you can quickly see if there's anything missing or misconfigured in your OnBase workflow between two separate environments. Everything highlighted in red is something that was missing and or the from one lifecycle to the other. So looking for red and green. Oftentimes there can be a naming convention off, but this is a great quick visual indicator of anything that's potentially off between two environments that you didn't do an import and an export of your lifecycle. Once you run your compare, you'll bring up and do a this will actually generate an entire report so you can see everything that needs to be done. It actually creates a punch list with a 1 point, in this case you can see 1.1 or 1.2 and 1.3. So it did a compare and it's starting showing you the exact queue and exact location and what was different about them. So that way, like in this case, it's showing the difference of an email address versus email as a property name. So you can go in and make the correction to get them back in sync, and this could be a punch list for your developer team. A great underutilized tool. And you can print those off as well. Now let's talk about some maintenance reminders. So maintenance is one of those things that everybody says they do, and then, you know, of course things get busy and you get a lot of requests for your time, and it gets very difficult to keep everything running smooth and making sure you're doing all the maintenance, especially when things are going well. When you don't have any problems with the systems, you might get a little lax in your maintenance. So let's go through and make sure you understand everything that you should be doing to keep your OnBase system running smooth. And here's one example. They applied a maintenance plan to their SQL server, updating statistics and updating the indices, and reduced the processing time by 28 minutes for a dip batch. That is a very significant amount of time savings. And time, if you don't have your maintenance plans running well on your SQL server or on your Oracle server, you will see performance issues, and it'll be very slow and very gradual, and you may not even notice it up front. Your end users might not start complaining because they happen very slowly over time. But by running those maintenance plans and keeping them up to date, your system performance will be greatly improved. And in this case, any mass import processing will dramatically be improved by keeping your maintenance plans up to date. And the database itself, that is the heart of your OnBase system. You got to keep a strong, healthy heart, so you have to do the maintenance plans. And you want to monitor your maintenance plans. Don't assume that they ran and just did everything successfully, because we've seen plenty of times when they actually executed. So the system, as far as like SQL, for example, it'll say it ran it. Unfortunately, it may not have finished successfully. So you have to look and verify and make sure that there isn't anything sitting in the event viewer that shows that it crashed earlier. So the event log is a great source for information about how something crashed early. You want to run them independently, so you can also run each step individually so you can make sure that it completed successfully. There are, of course, you can have it email you once it's completed successfully as a part of your maintenance plan. So there's a couple of ways to make sure that it happens, but that is a very critical step. And you also can look at your server and make sure that you aren't maxing out your RAM. So if your users are saying, well, yeah, sometimes during the day it gets a little busy or a little slow, and I can't necessarily get everything I want done, take a look and see, is that a particular time someone's running a really big query, and maybe it's time to take your database and maybe share it off for a report. If it's somebody running a report causing that max out, or if it's doing a mass import, maybe you take that off hours so that it happens overnight when there are less users on the system. But make sure your database is being backed up and the statistics are being updated and the indices are being updated as well. With the backup, you want to make sure you're doing it on a daily basis. You want to test your backups to make sure you can actually do a full restore. And a great way to do that is take a backup through your normal maintenance program, back it up, and then use that and restore it to a test copy, and then make sure you can log in and actually get the data from the system. If that doesn't work, then you know your backup isn't quite right. So a backup without a restore isn't a lot of help. It also is a great way to update and create a fresh test system or fresh dev system or a sandbox environment for your developers to play in. Statistics should be updated at 100% sample. You want to do that at least on a weekly basis, depending on the volume of data that you're bringing in, but I would highly recommend at least on a weekly basis. And you can see on the screen that there's update statistics, column statistics should be updated at 100%. There's a whole task on it. The OnBase MRG for database maintenance plans is fantastic. It walks you right through every single setting that you should do for your maintenance plan. And if you're not the DBA or you're the accidental DBA, don't worry, don't be scared or intimidated by it. You can walk in and it's literally screen by screen, walks you through the settings that you need to do to set up your maintenance plan. As I mentioned earlier, indexing is important. Fragmentation of your database will happen. It's natural as it's writing in all those different values. However, running this, similar to doing a hard disk defrag, will exponentially make your system faster by condensing and bringing those indexes in alignment and removing fragmentation. So do that at least on a weekly basis. If you have very low volume, you can do it on a monthly basis, but I highly recommend a weekly update of your indices. Like taking out the trash, good spring cleaning, clean out all your old stuff, you want to do the document and folder maintenance. For those of you that don't know, document maintenance and folder maintenance is really your recycle bin of OnBase. So just like your desktop, when you delete a file, it goes out to your recycle bin and it isn't gone until you empty the recycle bin, or at least in theory, right? You're gone. That space becomes available to be rewritten. Similarly, document and folder maintenance has to be done as well. So that is your recycle bin. That's where your users could call you back and say, hey, can you restore this file for me? And you as an administrator can go in, right-click, and restore that file. You want to make sure that you're emptying those out on a regular basis. And what's that regular schedule is really up to you and what you want to communicate with your end users. Keeping 3 months worth is very common. So people say every 90 days I'm going to go in, I'm going to flush everything out of there. So you can rotate that through. You can put that on an automated schedule if you want. But you just want to make sure it's happening. We've seen a few systems lately that have had documents in recycling for over 5 years. And from a retention policy and from obviously legally recoverable, you want to make sure that you're cleaning those out because they are not officially deleted until you've done document and folder maintenance. And like folders and documents, users come and go. And every workstation, when they log into OnBase, gets registered within the database. And there are lots of things that can happen, obviously. Like, for example, those people that do scanning, their workstations get registered with the workstation registration of production document imaging. That registration gets saved to that PC specifically, and to that, if you've done a new rollout of PC, you put out new hardware, that old PC is still out there until you go and clean those out of the system. So go in, take a moment, go in. If you've done a PC rollout, go through it, take all the old PC names, remove them because they're no longer needed. And if you delete one that was accidentally somebody you thought was gone and isn't, don't worry, the system will automatically add those back in. So if you get rid of one you weren't sure it was only for a concurrent user, you can pull those out without worry because the system will automatically add them back in when they do log in. And with that, I'll turn it over to Miss Jennifer to talk about some shortcuts.
Thank you, Chris. That was a lot of great information. We're going to talk about some different shortcuts that you can use within the OnBase system. A lot of times you will hear that your users don't want to use the mouse and they want to keep their fingers on the keypad. So there's some keys that they can use to help them keep their hands on the keyboard and not have to move it to the mouse. So within the Thick client, there are some different shortcuts you can use, and then the Unity client has a bunch more shortcuts and some different shortcuts. But a couple of them that I'm just going to talk about here is your Control-H, which from here will delete characters from a field. Control-Z undoes your typing. Control-I redoes what you've just undone. And then there's always Control-X and Control-C and Control-V, which you can use in a lot of different places. Those are also very handy to use in Unity forms. But Control-H actually has a couple different things you can do with it. So if you actually have a document open, it will open document history. Control-P will allow you to print that document. Control-K will bring open your keyword panel. You can do cross-references with Control-W. If you've got a very large document, Control-Home, Control-End will take you to the first page and the last page. And Control-G will let you will bring up the go-to page dialog box so you can tell what page you want. Say you want page 50. And then here in the Unity client shortcuts, there's some of them are the same, Control-C, Control-V, Control-X like before, but there's a lot of different ones that are used within the Unity client. Here they use Control page up, page down to go previous page, next page. Batch indexing, so if you are indexing batches, you can, Control-G will delete a page. Alt-Y will clear the keywords so you can add new keywords. You can stop indexing. So there's a lot of different things you can do if you have someone who's just an indexer and they're just entering values. They can use these keys to jump around within the Unity client. New with 16, you can actually create shortcuts or keystroke shortcuts that you can use within ad hoc tasks. So you can use a keystroke instead of double clicking. A special note on here though is you cannot use Shift with anything by itself. So you can't do like Shift A or something like that. You would need to add Control or Alt with that Shift in order for it to work. And with that said, I'm going to turn it back over to Chris, and he's going to go over 5 tools to improve your business area.
Having the right tool makes any job a lot easier and saves you time and money and effort. And OnBase gives you more than 300 different modules to select from. So we're going to highlight just 5 of them, kind of best and favorites right now to improve your business. So the first one I want to talk about is ICAP, or Intelligent Capture for Accounts Payable. This is a very powerful tool for those of you that have heard the buzzwords about OCR technology and what does that really get you. ICAP is designed really to help expedite your accounts payable invoice processing. It's point and click configurable, and most importantly, it comes bundled with a whole bunch of wonderful tools. So besides having a built-in OCR process piece, and it has its own viewer for doing keyword modifications during the invoice, so it brings an invoice in, it does OCR on it to determine who's your vendor, the date, invoice amount, and PO, for example, if it's a PO invoice. That entire process, that's the first part of ICAP, but it also comes with Mailbox Importer, which takes Outlook emails, for example, and brings them in so that you can look and grab attached invoices to emails automatically. It also has fax integration, so a lot of people have write fax and still get faxed invoices. You can directly tie into your fax server in order to bring in invoices. And then you can measure your performance of invoice processing through reporting dashboards. Reporting dashboards can be used not only just for ICAP, but for all of your reporting needs, which has a fantastic web viewer interface as well. So ICAP is a very powerful tool to improve your overall process of your AP invoices. And here's just a really quick screenshot showing your verification indexing window along with the center portion showing you the actual invoice, the bottom showing, left-hand corner showing you the actual document. And you can see in this case I've got 5 of them in there and I got 3 of 5 remaining. I even can do line item extraction. And on the right-hand side, it shows you the extraction summary. So how well did OCR perform on this particular document? Was the quality good and was able to extract the values cleanly? So a very, very powerful tool to add to your toolkit if you're doing AP invoice processing manually today. And as you heard the tips and tricks for OnBase workflow is definitely one of the best values you can possibly do into your organization. So if you don't have an OnBase workflow license today, you highly recommend you get at least one. Because even as an administrator, I'll give you a quick example. If I have a new hire, in this case you can see I've got some workflows on the left, those are life cycles, and I've got some queues, in this case a document. You can see I have a Unity form presented. I can, with a single license, have all the resumes come in, or all my applications for employment come in as a Unity form. They can route, and I can do some checks and balances on it, and I can actually just email it out using distribution service and send those to the hiring managers. And with no workflow interactions, I can have them have all that data right in front of them without doing anything more. So if I don't do, that's the bare minimum. That's what one license can get you, is that entire process of getting them into OnBase and distributing out to the various hiring managers. The next level, of course, I can add more licenses and have the users interact with it. So like in this example, you can see I can have the HR do a setup on it. I can have my hiring manager do ports. I can import an I-9 for my end user. So I can turn this into an entire onboarding process that will take it from the time of getting their application, going through the interviewing and hiring process, to then the onboarding step and bringing them on and getting all of their important documents signed and imported into OnBase, all as one fluid workflow process. A great, great tool. And not to mention I can use it as an admin just to, say, re-index documents automatically, change a document type, or add a keyword, or change a keyword. So there are a lot of administrative tasks you can complete using OnBase workflow that go above and beyond just the basic business process flow that a lot of people think of. And tying in with workflow, in that workflow license, you get Unity forms. And this is one basic Unity form, what you can kind of see here, where I've got an employee ID and the keyword. I've also got my ad. I can add products. In this case, it's a request form, so I'm requesting purchase request, and I want to, say, get some materials brought in, and I can have this route to accounting. But it's a very quick way to gather data in to the system in using an electronic form rather than the paper form request that a lot of people still use. The next tool I want to talk about is WorkView, or as you may know it, case management. This is a very, very powerful tool. For those of you who have Excel spreadsheets or an Access database that you're leveraging today to manage some of your data, these are really taking data elements and expanding on, and oftentimes you'll hear work with workflow. WorkView objects can actually be routed through workflow to manage an entire process. So in this case, you can see it's a contract. An example here, I'm using contract management, so vendor contracts. If I want to be, if I'm a contract manager and I want to manage what that looks like, and where is it at? Is it sitting in legal? Is it approved? Where is this at? And when does it need to be relooked at? I can manage all of this using WorkView, and I can use it as a collaboration tool as well. So as I'm going back and forth with negotiations, legal can go through and either approve it, or they can do a review, and they can do edits, of course, because most legal lawyers want to edit and add their stamp to it. So they'll edit it and send it off for approval, and the negotiation back and forth can all be tracked in here, and you can add notes for every single one of those. So it's a fantastic tool to take your Access databases or your Excel spreadsheets and move them out of there and bring them directly into OnBase and tie a business process with it. Reporting dashboards. You saw one earlier, the Naviant report dashboard for license usage. Jen showed you how you can enable license usage, and now you can also take that and see that in the dashboard view. She showed you what one of those screens looks like. The reporting dashboards tool is a great, great asset for taking a snapshot of your business, whether it's a workflow, number of documents, users, license usage, And not only does it tie to OnBase data, you can actually extend this beyond that and tie it into other data. You can tie this into basically any other system that has a database that you can query. So not only can you get OnBase data in your reporting dashboard, but you can extend it beyond that. So this is what that Nav peak license usage report looks like. This is one of 42 reporting dashboards that we have built. And if you are a Naviant tier support customer, and you own the reporting dashboard license, we will give you all 42 pre-configured reporting dashboards to you for free. It's a fantastic addition to your maintenance program, and these dashboards are amazingly helpful. These were similar to when we had reports that we built for, based on your feedback from our summits. We've built these into specific dashboards, and this license one in particular has been particularly useful. And with that, we're going to open it up to any questions. Since we don't have any questions online, please note there are plenty of online resources that you can leverage to gain additional information that we have here today. Check out our Naviant blog and, of course, the OnBase community. If you're not a member already, make sure you sign up, because there are lots of forums and boards to review and content in MRG format, which are the module reference guides, to gain additional insights into all the things that we talked about here today. The current versions of software being released and available is OnBase 16, Service Pack 2, Kovacs Capture 10, VRS Elite 5, Teleforms 10.8, and of course Brainware 5.7 SP1. So if you're running any of those and you're not on the current release and would like to be, contact us to get those latest versions. Our next webinar is in July, middle of July. We're going to cover all those latest and greatest changes in OnBase 17, as it should be fully released by then. And don't forget to attend and lock in for October 2017 at the Potawatomi Hotel and Casino in Milwaukee for our Naviant Summit. You'll learn all kinds of great content, and we have it's 2 days of amazing sessions. Of course, we have our expert stations for those of you who attended before, and we have half-day trainings on this day 2, so you can learn more in-depth about workflow and additional items. Thank you again for attending, and we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar in July.
Thank you, and have a good day.